Sorry about that. We were talking about tsunamis, and I had a phone call come in I had to take. Um, so we're talking about tsunamis. If you remember, a lot of you, when I saw this date in the book, I guess I'm just shocked at the time that goes by when it just seems like yesterday that happened. But in India, I remember watching the news, and it was just one of the worst things. There was a multiple natural disasters. So an earthquake had occurred in the ocean where it generated a tsunami that was 60 feet high. And I want you to think about it killed 227,898 people. Think about that. 200 in a matter of hours, 200,000 people were dead, 500,000 were injured, and there was over 1 million people plus that were homeless. So think about the issues that transpired in India. Where are we going to store 200,000 people dead? How are we going to identify those people? How are we going to move those people? We don't even have enough vehicles to move 200,000 people to and from the morgue, to and from. We don't have a morgue. We have trucks that have refrigerators, and we store them in there until we can get those people out. Think about 1 million people lost. That's homeless out on the streets now. If it was winter, how do we keep them warm? How do we take in that many people in a geographical area? How do we handle the infrastructure? Think about the rebuilding from that point forward. How do we deal with the sewer system, the water system? Think about the electricity. Think about the waste, human waste. How do we deal with 1 million homeless people going in the streets? There's not enough toilets because there's no water and the septic doesn't work, and the unsanitary conditions. It is a major, major issue. So are we prepared to handle that? Are we prepared to handle it in this country? I don't know. We would definitely need to take a look at how our emergency services are able to handle that type of issues. Moving on, think about the severe winter storms. If you remember just a few years ago, there was a pileup on Interstate 80. We had hundreds of vehicles stranded in a snowstorm on Interstate 80. Think about the crunch of resources that we needed to send in there immediately. You're sitting in your car in frigid temperature and you're out of gas. What do you do now? How do you eat? How do you drink? Two tractor trailers crashing, and there's no off ramps between them. How do you get off the road? Do you start taking vehicles from the other side, turning them around in the roadway in the ice and the cold weather and moving them off? Eventually, what they needed to evacuate the people from the vehicles and transport them to local hotels or fire departments to house. So severe weather is always a issue, especially when you're talking about places like Pennsylvania, New York, Michigan, these places up north that have extreme weathers. And think about the extreme heats. So now we talk about the extreme cold. Now think about the extreme heats. People that don't have air conditioning that are dying from heat stroke. More than 600 people in Chicago in 1995 died from heat over those. So the electrical companies can't handle the load of the that's being put on them from the air conditioners and from all of the work. So they shut down. They have massive blackouts. Those are some substantial issues. Structure fires, dam failures. Think about the Johnstown flood back in the late 1800s, 1890, which is coincidentally where my daughter's going to school. There was a flood, and there's a memorial there where over 3,000 people lost their life when the dam broke in Johnstown and killed all of those people. Think about Racetown Lake. We don't think about it. Huntington, Pennsylvania, which is just up the Susquehanna River, up the Juniata River. There is a flood control dam that was put in 1972 from the results of the flood of I just talked about the 1972 flood. So they put a flood control dam in. That dam is a monstrosity. You can look it up online. It's called Lake Racetown. It's a recreational dam along with electric hydro dam. It's 27 miles long. There's 1,100 miles of shoreline. And imagine if there was a man-made explosion that took that dam out, or a natural disaster that took that dam out. They said it would destroy everything from Huntington to Harrisburg in a wave of water that would kill hundreds of thousands of people. Do we have the resources to protect that dam and make sure that that dam does not fail? If it does fail, can you imagine the catastrophic problems it would cause, from infrastructure to death? We don't think about that. I drove by that dam for 25, 30 years, the first 25, 30 years of my life, and never thought about what would happen if it broke, the significance. A lot of you don't remember, and I don't remember, nuclear and radiation disasters, but one of the biggest disasters, potential disasters that occurred, was reactor number 2 at 3 Mile Island in 1979 failing and causing a plume of radiation to escape into the atmosphere, which there are confirmed, some unconfirmed reports that just after the radiation release at 3 Mile Island, there was a rise in cancer related issues that, like anything else, it's a debate. Was it a direct result of the radiation that was released from 1979? And it's interesting that we talk about the 3 Mile Island, because now it is deregulating. They're shutting down 3 Mile Island. Although nuclear radiation can cause significant issues, it is, besides some of the other natural ways to produce electricity, very clean. But they didn't get a bid on the electrical source, so it will. They will deregulate. They're currently talking of the timetable of deregulating the 3 Mile Island, and it will be, I think, uninhabited for 75 or 100 years until they get the radiation, and the radiation disperses from that area. Next topic, terrorism. We talk about that all the time. We talk about domestic terrorism. You think about Timothy McVeigh and the Oklahoma City bombing. We've talked about New York City. We talked, if you see in the news, the biggest issue with terrorism is the lone wolf terrorists. We call them the lone wolf terrorists because they're by themselves. And I'll give you the perfect example. In criminal justice, when we have more than one person that knows about an incident or that we're going to, let's say me and Jim and Tom are getting ready to blow up a bridge. There's 3 people involved. Well, what if Tom accidentally tells somebody, or I have to call Tom on the phone to tell him, hey, we're going to blow up the bridge this day, and then Jim texts me a message that says, hey, we're going to blow up the bridge on this day. So there's 3 people involved. The chances of police being involved goes up when you have one or more than one person involved in criminal activity. I love it when crimes are committed, whether it's more than one person, because once you talk to one of those 3 people, somebody's going to give it up and talk about it. But we are unable to, if I do it by myself, nobody knows except me, myself, and I. So it's very difficult to deal with lone wolf terrorists. And we talk about terrorists, but we don't, we talk about the effects of 3,000 people dead on 9/11, but, do we talk about the wars and how many people are lost in those wars? It's certainly something you got to think about. Biological weapons and nuclear weapons and radiological weapons. Think about a radiological dirty bomb set off in a populated zone, like when I say a populated zone or high density zone, such as a city, whether it be New York City, whether it be Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, whether it be Los Angeles, any of our large metropolitan cities, those radiological bombs are going to cause dirty bombs, radiological bombs are going to cause catastrophic issues to where people may not be able to go back to those areas for hundreds, if not thousands of years. It's a pretty significant issue. If you go to the border, I go to Canada every year, and you see these large, you drive between all of these large, and you can tell they're electrified. They are, from what I understand, able to detect radiation through the vehicles, very small amounts of radiology, so we can stop someone from bringing a radiological bomb into the United States. So what we try to do today is what are some of the risk factors? How do we deal with some of the issues to get prepared for those significant issues? What about social and economic risk factors? Those are issues that we need to talk about. What is the impact on people? We're seeing it, again, I hate to bring it up, but COVID-19 has had major social and economic factors in this country where people are not getting enough money to live, and the government is basically supporting those people who have lost their jobs. We talk about, oh my gosh, we're getting another stimulus check to stimulate the economy and keep it moving. But a lot of people just seem to kick the can down the road. Where are we going to pay for $1.9 trillion in extra funds. Our grandchildren's grandchildren are going to be paying for those. Nobody seems to want to talk about where are we getting this money. I mean, you're not going to see it today, but you're going to see it very shortly, which is going to cause economic issues in the future. Where are we coming up with this money to pay back? Where's it coming from? You're going to see serious issues. Think about the social impact. For a year and a half, my wife's been home, working from home, no social interaction except now on Zoom. But think about the impact of not going out, the brick and mortar stores, buying stuff on the internet, grocery shopping. For crying out loud, if you even want your groceries delivered to your home, you can do that now. I didn't even know you could do that up until a couple of weeks ago. Well, you talk about lazy Americans, but what's the social impact that it's had? People don't want to socialize because of the COVID-19. So it's interesting that we talk about some of these issues now at this class, and you're seeing some of these impacts that it's having on us. And you, last class, I asked the students to talk about the impact that COVID-19 has had on their both personal and professional life, and it was pretty profound. But in my field of law enforcement, I haven't missed a day of work. I showed up for work every day. It hasn't impacted me one bit. In fact, it's impacted me a little more because my fellow coworkers who have gotten sick from COVID-19 and were off for those quarantine periods, we had to cover shifts, and it became very long. And one weekend I worked like 33 hours of overtime. Didn't mind the paychecks, but it was pretty draining on my body. So those are some of the natural and technological hazards and some risk assessment we talk about for Chapter 2. And get your homework assignments in, get them completed. Have a great week, and we'll see you next week.